I should have been a temptation because my humming is awesome. Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookstrom and I am back with another video. So I got a request. First of all, I just want to shout myself out because I made it to Vlogmas Day 8. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. And I'm very, very proud of this. So I made it to Vlogmas Day 8. Yesterday I got I mentioned on Twitter, and hold on, because I'm going to feel bad if I don't get this right. Okay, so on Twitter yesterday, Big V asked me, and I'm not sure how to say her Twitter name, because it's Everybody Loves Vaughn, I think. If I got that wrong, please correct me. I think that's what it is. Okay, well, she asked me to do a video for some suggestions for adult manga or graphic novels. So if you've ever been on this channel, you know that I read a lot of graphic works. It's kind of like my thing. That's my shebang. Absolutely love it. So as you can see right here, these are my graphic novels. Which, I'm going to make that video. I really am. Because they're not really graphic novels. They're comics. These are my comics and my manga. So I have two shelves of that stuff. And I have, which you guys can't see on the floor, like about 50 single issues of comics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through about 5 that I deem adult in nature. Meaning that they're not children's graphic novels / comics. And teens can read them, I mean, if they choose to read them, but they're more so marketed towards adults, if that makes sense. And manga's a little bit, you know, manga has its ways about itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the first one that I'm going to recommend, which should be no surprise to anyone, is the Fable series by Bill Willingham. This is not volume 1. Volume 1 is downstairs, I'm upstairs, and I am not walking up those steps, or down, to walk back up. But this is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. It is basically about fairy tale people who have been trapped into our world. They live in New York because they are escaping from the adversary. So they disguise themselves as regular, just people who are living in New York City, but they still have their own fairy tale things going on, which is the most awesome thing in the world. If you've never read this comic, I highly recommend it. A lot of people seem to have an issue with the artwork. I don't. I actually like the artwork, but it's more of a, it's not as glossy. That's the word I like to use. It's not as glossy. The paper is not glossy. Like, it's just regular paper. And I feel like the artwork is a little bit more choppy than what people are probably used to when it comes to comic works. But this is one that I recommend. It does have adult content. So I don't know if I would recommend it for younger audiences, but it is, if you like fairy tales, this is a really, really great one to pick up. The next one that I have here is Lock and Key by Joe Hill, and is illustrated by Gabriel Rodriguez. This one is only 6 volumes, and I guess I should have made a point about this with the Fable series. If you do start it, do know that it is a very long and tedious process. There are about 22 volumes just in the original series, but then you have Jack of Fables, Ferris, and then you have, I think Cinderella has her own ones, and then there's some books that take place after all of these events. So it's a lot to read if you are interested in reading that, but it's well worth it. Very complex world. I'm actually going through the process of rereading it. Okay, so back to Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. Lock and Key is only 6 volumes long, and it has this almost like a spin-off short story. I have not read this yet. It has different bonus content in it, like stuff like Joe Hill's notes, and then an interview with Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. So this is just bonus material. This is something that doesn't have to be read. I absolutely love the Lock and Key series. One of my favorite comic book series also of all time. It's about this family. Their father passes away, and that's not really a spoiler because it happens within the first few pages, and he just doesn't pass away. He actually gets killed. So his family has to go to a house that I think he lived in as a child, and this house is very different. It's weird. It has all these keys, and these keys do different things, and there is somebody who is trying to, an entity that's trying to overtake the house and get out and do some really, really cruel, mean things. But I won't say what the keys do because that is part of the plot of the story, so I don't want to spoil it. But this one is extremely dark. It's Joe Hill. I mean, horror is his thing, so expect that element to it. But the artwork is absolutely amazing, and this is an example of what the artwork actually looks like in the other one as well. So the artwork is amazing. And if you're into horror comics, this is definitely the route to go. So the next series that I'm going to recommend manga-wise, and of course I could not do a recommendation without including Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. So this is an extensive series. I am not completely caught up with it. I think here in the US we're up to about volume 27, but Japan will be hitting up to volume 34 in the early part of next year. So that's the only downside of reading any type of manga, of course, is the fact that we have to wait for the translations, especially when they're newer, and it usually takes about a month and some change. So we usually get copies every 2 months. So like if something comes out in October, it'll be the first week of October, and it won't come out again until the first week of December. So about 2 months that you have to wait in order to get the next volume, which is why I slow down so much on reading these, because I read them so quickly. These take about 30 to 45 minutes to read, and then I'm a fast reader to begin with. So in reading these in 35 to 40 minutes, I usually have ended up in a situation where I have to wait for the next translated volume, and I'm super impatient. So I've actually just was like, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna stop. And then that was a mistake, because now I've stopped that I'm not even caught up. I'm so far behind. But Shokugeki no Soma is about a young man by the name of Soma who goes to, or he's sent to, this elite Japanese cooking school. And because he's sent there, he ends up having to compete and fight for his ability to even stay within the school. It's like, what's the name of it's like Iron Chef on steroids. That's the best way I know how to put it. The food in here looks amazing. If you're a foodie, you will love it, because they actually have recipes and you can actually cook the stuff in here. So because I'm a foodie and I love reading and looking at food, this is like such a soul satisfaction type of thing. But I highly recommend this. Lots of fan service in the beginning. The fan service kind of calms down towards probably like the middle of the series, but so much fan service. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of fan service. So the next manga that I have to recommend here is Judge Volume 1 by Yoshiki Tonaga. I probably said that completely wrong. This is a horror manga that reminds me very much so of like Saw, where people are kind of being made to rectify the wrong that they have committed, and you figure out what everybody has done wrong and why they are wearing these heads, which is weird, and they all are related to the 7 deadly sins. So I've only read volumes 1 and 2, and I don't believe there's that many volumes. So there are about 6 volumes, and not even about, there are exactly 6 volumes in this series, and I've only read the first 2. This is definitely a much darker manga, one that seems to be more adult-like in nature, because it deals with more adult-like content. The only criticism that I have is the artwork. I get confused on who is who, because the artist pinned a lot of them to look very similar in the face, so it's kind of hard because there's so many different characters and it's hard to keep up with names. So that's like my only criticism of it. But if you were looking for something that's a little bit more dark in nature, or a little bit more geared towards adults, then I definitely would pick up Judge. And the next one that I have here, and the last one on this list, is Revival Volume 1, or the Revival series as a whole, and this is written by Tim Seeley and Mike Norton. So they call it a rural noir, which is, I think, a perfect description for it. This is another, I don't even want to say horror because it's not really horror-like, but it's very much so like survival, and it does have some supernatural elements in the fact that this town is dealing with the fact that the people, their loved ones who have died, all of a sudden, randomly all come back to life. And quite a few of them don't realize or remember that they are dead. So, very interesting concept. I have not actually read a whole lot of this. I think I've only read maybe like the first 2 or 3 volumes. But I want to catch up with it because from what I've seen on Goodreads, I think it's pretty much ended. It was 8 volumes long. The 8th volume came out last year, and since then there hasn't been any update for like a new volume or anything like that. So I'm gonna assume that the storyline ends with volume 8, and that's where we're at. So if you're interested in something that's like The Walking Dead but a little bit more personal, because these are not just random people who have become zombies, these are people that the people who are supposed to be alive know, and it makes things very, very interesting, especially in the context with how some of them have died. So if you like that, if you dig in that, if you feel that, definitely check this one out. Alright y'all, so that is it. Those are my recommendations for any type of manga, comic book that maybe you would be interested in, that's geared more so toward adults as opposed to like teens and children. Those are some of my favorites. I have a whole bunch of favorites. I read a lot of comics, which I should probably start talking about a little bit more on this channel. I do, but not as much as I talk about like my actual physical books. But I do read a lot of graphic works in general. I think they're very fulfilling, enriching, and their stories are just as captivating as a regular print material. So absolutely love them. As always, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content from me, make sure you click the subscribe button. Interested in following me on social media, all my links will be down below in the description box. And say yay because we made it to Vlogmas Day 8. Bye y'all.